I'm on a quest to understand who I am and where I come from.
Now they're both on a journey to find themselves.
Our beloved children's author getting to know his long-lost autistic son.
There could be a book in it.
Could be a documentary.
The heartwarming series, Austin. Watch free on CBC Gem.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at 2 degrees with mostly cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. More highways are closing in southwest Manitoba as snow and wind cause treacherous conditions. The Trans-Canada has been closed all day and is still closed between Austin and the Saskatchewan border. Sections of highways in the Pembina Valley area have also just closed. They include 2, 3, 5, and 10. So far, Winnipeg's been in the clear, but Natalie Hazel at Environment Canada says that's about to change.
Things have not switched over to snow yet for Winnipeg. We are expecting that a little bit later as this low slowly moves off to more or less east. And then we will no longer be in the warm wraparound air, and things will switch over.
And while Winnipeg waits for the snow, western Manitoba is digging out. The Carberry area has at least 23 centimeters. The Russell area has also been pounded. We'll hear more coming up on Radio Noon after this newscast. Advocates are calling on the Manitoba government to speed up the expansion of affordable child care spaces. It comes on National Child Day, which is today. Susan Prentice is a sociology professor and spokesperson for the Child Care Coalition of Manitoba. She applauds the province for implementing a $10 a day child care for licensed non-for-profit places. But right now, only 1 in 5 Manitoba children has access to a licensed space. Prentice says at the current rate, Manitoba is unlikely to meet a 2023 target of creating 23,000 new spaces by 2026.
Parent needs a space when children can't wait and parents can't wait. And what we need to see is real growth. We've calculated it's going to take 38.7 years at the current pace of growth.
Advocates also say the government must prioritize recruitment and retention of early childhood educators. Today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance in Manitoba, a day to remember people who have died as a result of transphobia and violence. Politicians raised the Transgender Day of Remembrance flag at the Manitoba legislature. Kirkfield Park MLA Logan Oxenham is the first openly transgender person elected to a provincial legislature in Canada. Oxenham says it's an especially challenging time with rising anti-trans sentiment in recent years.
Speaking for Manitobans and for Manitoba, I would say, recognizing trans people as people who exist through our Two-Spirit and Transgender Day of Visibility Act that we passed last year, which was something really significant for the community that actually solidifies our existence and our humanity.
Oxenham says he wants the trans community to know the government stands with them. Now to Kyiv. It's the sound of an air raid siren sounding overnight as Russia bombarded the Ukrainian capital with missile fire. The Ukrainian military says most missiles were shot down, but not before the United States closed its embassy. Embassy employees and all U.S. citizens in the capital have been told to seek shelter. This follows a weapons warehouse in Russia's Bryansk region being hit earlier this week by what the Kremlin says were American-made missiles. The United States has vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. It did not contain a demand for an immediate release of Israeli hostages taken captive by Hamas. Robert Wood is the U.S. representative to the United Nations.
A durable end to the war must come with the release of the hostages. Simply put, this resolution would have sent a dangerous message to Hamas. There's no need to come back to the negotiating table.
The Security Council adopted its first resolution on a ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas back in June, but it did little to stop the fighting. The hurricane-force winds slamming BC's coastal areas aren't expected to weaken until later today. The bomb cyclone weather system swirling off Vancouver Island has already cut off highways and left thousands without power. Most outages are on Vancouver Island, but there are also clients without power across Metro Vancouver and the Sunshine Coast. Leonard Krogh is the mayor of Nanaimo.
There were vast portions of the city without power, and it's probably going to be a while. The crews can only do so much. Given the intensity of the storm, which we could all hear and see, I suspect it's going to be a while before things are back to quote-unquote normal in Nanaimo.
About 95,000 BC Hydro customers are still without electricity. There's also some 600,000 homes without power in nearby Washington State. And finally, the Calgary Zoo says the death of a gorilla was due to human error. The 2-year-old western lowland gorilla named Ayari died last week while being moved between spaces of her enclosure. Colleen Baird is with the zoo.
The gorilla care team member intended to activate a door to separate Ayari from other members of the troop for an individual animal training session, but mistakenly activated the wrong door.
Baird said the gorilla suffered a head injury and could not be saved. The employee involved will be reassigned to a different area after additional training. The Calgary Zoo is also reassessing its protocols to ensure an incident like this does not happen again. Windy with a good chance of snow in Winnipeg today. Temperatures falling to around 0 this afternoon. Brandon, windy, winter storm weather. We're seeing blowing snow, a high around -5. Dauphin, you also have a winter storm warning, a high of -4 with blowing snow. Flin Flon, a winter storm warning, a high of -3. In Thompson, a snowfall warning, a high around 0. And in Churchill, you're seeing periods of snow, a high of -1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. And well, winter might officially be only a month away. Today kind of feels like it is kind of officially the first day of winter here in Manitoba. And to warm ourselves up, we're going to be talking about comfort food. We're opening up the phone lines after 12:30. Call in, share your recipes. We're going to have someone who's an expert in the topic join us as well to share theirs. Also, today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. We're going to take you to the Manitoba Legislature where the first openly gay transgender MLA marked the day. But up first on the show, we're going to hear what all this snow means for one Westman ski hill and get an update on the surprisingly difficult effort to round up all the peacocks in Souris for the winter. Well, Western Manitoba has been getting walloped over the past 24 hours or so, if you've been hearing on the news. And while that's meant closed schools and highways, it's also been great news for Assisipi Ski Resort near Russell, Manitoba. That's where Shannon Johnston is assistant manager. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So I know you're not actually at the ski hill today, kind of ironically, because of the snow. You're actually stuck at home near Inglis. So what does it look like out your window right now?
Oh, it looks like a winter wonderland. I shoveled my deck last night and it's covered again. We've got about 6 to 8 good inches again overnight.
Wow.
And it's beautiful out there.
That's great. I mean, and that must be great news for the folks at the ski hill. So what are things looking like there right now?
So I got some reports. My husband actually has our truck and he is snowmaking right now.
Okay.
So like I said, about 8 to 10 inches overnight. There's some areas with 5-foot drifts because it is blowing, but our snowmaking crew is out in full force. We've got 3 crews of 26 people. And honestly, this weather is what we were waiting for, what we need. The temperatures are perfect. The wind could die down a little, but any extra help from Mother Nature is fantastic. That extra snow helps us with the base, and we have to make a little less snow every day.
I think people might be surprised by the fact that you make snow during a snowstorm. Well, like that seems like a little bit like just let Mother Nature do its thing. Save yourself some time and effort. But why do you do that?
Well, Mother Nature needs some help for a great base of snow for skiing and snowboarding for the entire season that we can last till April 7th. We want to have a base of about 100 centimeters. So, we have to make all our own snow. This obviously is helpful, but we gotta do it sort of on our own as well. We got to be prepared for any weather. So if there's no snowfall, we got to do it on our own so we can actually open in the winter.
So speaking of that, between this snowfall, the snow that you're making, how close are you to having enough snow to open? What's the date? I'm sure everyone's wondering.
So our tentative opening date is December 13th. We always say tentative because you never know what Mother Nature is going to bring and what the weather is going to bring. But we have a really good 2-week window here of some cold temperatures. And if this snow keeps falling, we are always prepared to open early if we can. We just want to get as much covered, as many runs open, as many lifts open as possible. So we'll keep everyone posted on social media, updates every day, how snowmaking's going. And we're shooting for the 13th, but we would always like to open earlier.
How many calls have you been getting already about like, when are you opening? When are you opening?
As soon as we get the first little skip of snow, people are like, "Oh, are you going to open?" And it's fantastic because the excitement's there. Obviously, people are ready for winter. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Shannon, all the best as you prep for the big opening day, and hopefully that does happen sooner rather than later for you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's Shannon Johnson, assistant manager at Assisipi Ski Resort near Russell, Manitoba. And while skiers are rejoicing, the folks in Souris are wondering what to do with some of their other residents. Souris is known for their famous peacocks, who are probably wishing they were flying south for the winter right now, but they're in Souris. So is Dwayne Davison, the mayor of Souris Glenwood. Hello there.
Howdy. How are you today?
Good. So what's the status on the peacocks right now in Souris? Like what are they doing right now?
I think they're hunkering down for the most part.
Okay.
We make an effort to collect as many as we can, but they're wild. They're wild. I guess they're wild fowl, and they're pretty savvy. They're pretty hard to catch.
So it's actually, because I'm actually looking at one picture now. There's a woman who posted just today on the Souris Manitoba Facebook page. It was like, I've got this peacock hunkered down right outside my house. What do I do? Like, do you get calls from people often at the town to be like, can you come get this peacock?
Yeah, actually, we get them in the summertime too, because they're known to devour flowers and such, and the folks don't like that when that happens. We try and herd them along, or try and we put out traps to try and catch them, move them. But again, they're pretty smart. They're pretty tough to catch.
Mm-hmm. The ones that you do catch, though, what do you do with them for the winter?
We have a barn. We have a barn down in the park. We put them down in there, and they stay out of the elements. They're fed well, and as many as we can get there, we get there. These guys are, like I say, there were several who stayed out last winter, and startling me. Like I was surprised. They did very well. They wintered well.
Oh wow. Okay, so they survived. They just kind of moseyed their way back into town afterwards, or?
Yeah, they were hanging out by people's houses and stuff, but yet you couldn't get close to them to catch them. They were, and I'm sure there's folks that feed them, which is good. They seem to survive. They always find some shelter, and there's a couple that hang out with flocks of turkeys, and I guess the turkeys take care of them. I'm not sure, but they're, for a tropical bird, they've done well. I guess they probably wish they were in the tropics, but I guess that's not possible as well.
How many peacocks have you managed to round up so far this year to get them in the barn?
I'm not sure the number. It's an ongoing process. We have interesting enough, we have a white peacock that's in the barn year round, trying to breed him and get more white peacocks. There's a couple of little ones this year, and then they're just as they catch them, they'll throw them in. I honestly don't know if we've got 3 in there or 6 in there right now, but there's several more to go, I'm sure.
Are you sure you're not setting yourself up for failure with white peacocks come winter time, trying to round them up?
Well, maybe that's why he's in the barn.
Yeah. Maybe keep him in there, because come next winter, this might be a nightmare.
Maybe we'll put one of those orange safety vests on him, then we'll be able to find them.
That's the move. Exactly. But if there are folks like this woman I saw on Facebook who see a peacock in the yard in Souris, what's the move?
I guess give the office a call, and if we can get some guys out there and manage to get one trapped, we'll throw them in the barn.
Mm-hmm. And overall, like, what is like? Because like you said, sometimes they eat flowers, things like that. Overall, how do people in the town feel about the peacocks? I know they're also a tourist attraction too. Is there attention there?
It's interesting. I think most folks understand that they're a big draw. They bring a pile of people into town. They make us a lot of money, quite frankly. But there's folks that, again, they don't like the little presents they leave on the sidewalk, little Hershey's Kisses, and they don't like their flowers getting destroyed. It's a bit of a fine line for some folks, but we're pretty happy to have them. Like I said, it brings a lot of people into town. And
you're pretty happy to have them too?
Yeah. I think they're tremendous. they're a beautiful bird, and there's people come to town. People come to town. We got a story. One of our employees works for our parks department, walks a dog every day at noon, one of his friend's dogs, and he runs into tons of people. And he met a couple from Germany that flew to Winnipeg, drove straight to Souris to see peacocks. I mean, people come to town for the peacocks, and we appreciate that.
Wow. And how often do they actually put on a show and open their tails for you?
It's hit and miss, but they, when it's mating time, they like to show off. There's no question, and it's pretty spectacular.
Well, Dwayne, we'll leave it there, and good luck rounding up all those peacocks for the winter.
I appreciate the call, and have a great day. I'm looking forward to the comfort food section later on here.
Thanks. Do you have one, by the way? Do you have a favorite?
Gosh, no, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I've never met any food I don't like. So
okay, all the foods are comfort foods. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dwayne.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
That's Dwayne Davison, the mayor of Souris Glenwood.
Hi, I'm Matea Roach, and I have a new show on CBC. It's called Bookends. Every week, authors from Canada and around the world will join me to discuss their latest books. We'll have best-selling authors and rising stars. Our conversations will be smart and surprising, because when the book ends, the conversation begins.
Bookends with Matea Roach premieres Sunday afternoon at 1:30 in Newfoundland, 3 Pacific, and on demand on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. Stay tuned. We're going to get your in-depth weather forecast because there's a lot of weather still coming our way. A reminder to folks that there are a number of highways still closed right now, particularly in southwestern Manitoba. Highway number 1 from Austin to the Saskatchewan border still closed, and then lots of highways south of Brandon. Pretty much all if you are south of Brandon right now, you could almost assume that those highways are closed around Killarney, Boissevain, and lots of other areas around there. So just check Manitoba 511 if you are planning to hit the highway today, including if you're around Dauphin and Roblin as well. Poor conditions all around in western Manitoba. And here to tell us whether the highways might get better or worse, depending on the weather, is Riley Laychuk, who's our weather specialist. What are things looking like ahead here, Riley?
I'm just looking at the peak winds that we've seen. This is since midnight. Just some of the numbers from the Westman region. Brandon recording a gust early this morning of 76 kilometers an hour. Melita at 74, Dauphin, Roblin into the 60s, and Swan River into the 40-50 range through the northern part of the Parkland region. Here in Winnipeg, not as windy this morning, but we are starting to see the winds pick up a little bit as we've gotten through the afternoon hours here. That main area of snow that is still in Westman is making its way further south. The snow at the moment, at least, has ended in Dauphin. Still snowing through Roblin, south into Russell, Melita, Verdon. Brandon's kind of on the edge of it right now. A few snow showers still yet to come through the Red River Valley as well. What happened last night is that area of low pressure stalled out basically right over the city of Winnipeg last night. And what that did was keep our temperatures quite warm through the overnight period. So even through the middle of the night last night, we were still sitting at 2 degrees in Winnipeg because that low just kind of kept us under a bit of a blanket, kept us warm, and prevented that transition to snow from happening until about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. So we did start to see some of that transition in Winnipeg, particularly on the outer edges of the city, on the western side of the city. But you don't have to go too far outside the city to have found some snow. Just south, just west of the city, getting some of those poor driving conditions this morning, and more snow than we got here in Winnipeg. I know some places into Charleswood getting a trace of snow this morning. Not much downtown here, aside from some wet streets. Temperatures right now, quickly look at those. 2 degrees at the airport and at the Forks, -1 in Morris. Eli's at -2 at the moment. And then much colder air back to the west. So Brandon's at -5 at the moment, -8 in Roblin, -6 in Swan River. So you can really see where that temperature contrast is and where we've seen that much colder air move in. And we're looking at that moving in as we get into the rest of the day today into tonight for the Red River Valley, and then much colder air after that. I'll come back in a bit with your long range.
Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is Riley Laychuk, our CBC weather specialist and our climate change reporter. 12:18 right now here on Radio Noon. And in Winnipeg right now, we are sitting at 32 degrees. Heading for a high today. Well, actually, that is our highs. We dipped down to 4, though, overnight. Well, the transgender flag was raised today at the Manitoba Legislature to mark the International Transgender Day of Remembrance and reflect on the lives lost to anti-trans violence. Logan Oxenham is the MLA for Kirkfield Park, also the first openly transgender person to be elected an MLA in Manitoba. Speaking at the legislature, he shared what this day means to him.
I'm feeling a lot of feelings today. Yesterday was actually Trans Day of Resilience. And it's a day where we can do a lot of reflecting on, where we're at in our journeys as trans people, but just all the things that we need to go through in order to, be happy in this world, in this life. And I feel so privileged. I'm a white, cis-appearing trans man who has the privilege of standing in this great space with a trans flag behind me. That's never happened, I don't think, here before. And we need to be in this space. This space is where laws happen. This space is where people like me get to walk in the chamber and participate in some of the greatest moments and write some of the greatest moments in our collective history as Manitobans. It's such an honor and such a privilege. I think of my dear friend Holden Connor, who we lost 5 years ago, who took his life. We worked so hard together on trying to make life better for folks in community, because we can see when we all come together just how beautiful and how powerful that is. It was 5 years ago. We couldn't have imagined that someone like me would be standing in this space even 5 years ago. I want to remember those who we lost. Today is a day to mourn. It is a day to reflect. But it is also a day for us to come together as a community, like we always have, like we always do, and like we always will, and see each other for who we are, and wrap our arms around each other and affirm that yes, we live in Manitoba. Manitoba is a safe space for everyone, not just some of us, but for all of us. And you have a government that stands with you, and we will walk beside you. In this world where there's darkness literally all around us, it's especially hard, I think, for our family that lives south of the border right now, but even in Alberta with their horrific legislation. But there is hope, and it starts right here. It starts with Minister Asaguera being a light and shining as bright as they can, and we step into that light and we shine our light as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here today. Thank you for including me. And please take care, everybody. Thank you.
That's Kirkfield Park MLA Logan Oxenham speaking at the Manitoba Legislature earlier today. He also spoke with the CBC's Jeff Stapleton following the ceremony.
Personally, it's a tough day. You can't gloss over that fact. It's a day to mourn. It's a day for community to really come together and and create that space where we can be safe to mourn the folks that we've lost this year and years past.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey?
Well, I'm the first elected trans person in the country to a legislature, which is a huge honor and privilege. And like I said, I think in my speech what I was trying to do was to not gloss over the fact that it's been a hard year specifically for the trans community. We've had a lot of anti-trans sentiment out in the media, trans folks have become politicized. So, this year I think it's exceptionally challenging for the community to have this day.
How important is it that Manitoba becomes a place where you feel safe and other people like you feel safe?
Well, I would hope that all of our spaces all across this country we could feel safe. But speaking for Manitobans and for Manitoba, I would say, recognizing trans people as people who exist through our Two-Spirit and Transgender Day of Visibility Act that we passed last year, which was something really significant for the community that actually solidifies our existence and our humanity. And it's something really positive that's come out of, a community that often has a lot of tragic stories.
There's one thing you could say to the community at large. What would you say?
Oh boy. Well, I would say you are loved. I would say you are seen. I would say that we're here to listen, and you have a government that will stand with you and beside you through your journey, and you're safe with us.
That's Logan Oxenham, MLA for Kirkfield Park, speaking with the CBC's Jeff Stapleton. Today is the International Transgender Day of Remembrance. Well, let's listen to some new music now from Manitoba's own Kendra Kay. Here's the latest single from her self-titled EP. It's called Old Fashioned Kinda Love.
There's cookies baking in the oven, fresh lemonade in a jar, the kids and dogs in a one-eyed rooster running around the yard. That easy breeze through the back door screen is singing sweet and low. We're dancing in the kitchen to the sound of the fiddle coming from the radio. So let the world go crazy, we're gonna be just fine. I wouldn't trade it, baby, for any other kind of life. All we need is a front porch swing to watch that setting sun. And a little bit throwback out of style, old-fashioned kind of love. Now I come from a long line of simple love and living, and just like grandma's recipe, some things don't need fixing. Ain't trying to keep up with what everyone does out there in Hollywood, 'cause here in our own little black and white movie, we've got it pretty damn good. So let the world go crazy, we're gonna be just fine. I wouldn't trade it, baby, for any other kind of life. All we need is a front porch swing to watch that setting sun. And a little bit throwback out of style, old-fashioned kind of love. Just a couple acres on the outskirts of nowhere. Well, it ain't much, but it feels like we're a couple millionaires. So let the world go crazy, we're gonna be just fine. I wouldn't trade it, baby, for any other kind of life. All we need is a front porch swing to watch that setting sun. And a little bit throwback out of style, old-fashioned kind of love. I love our throwback out of style, old-fashioned kind of love. Old-fashioned kind of
That's Manitoba's own Kendra Kay with Old Fashioned kind of love. 12:28 here on Radio Noon, and tomorrow at this time we're actually going to be out of the studio live. We're going to be at RRC Polytech at the Notre Dame campus, doing a live show, talking to students, learning more about why folks are there, what's on their minds, and why they're getting into the trades, and what they're worried about as international students as well. We're gonna have a few people on the show, and we also want you to stop by. We're gonna be at the Notre Dame campus in the library hallway on the mall level. That's where actually CBC has been set up all week as well, getting people's stories. And I'll be there tomorrow with the crew putting on a live show. And if you want to come by, it's live radio and it's community radio, so you can come on by and share your story and tell us a little bit about why you go to RRC Polytech, what's on your mind, what are your hopes for the future with whatever you're pursuing. We'd love to have you on. Come on by tomorrow between 12 and 1. That's when we're going to be broadcasting live from the library hallway in the mall level at the Notre Dame campus. Looking forward to that. Also looking forward to our conversation coming up, our call-in conversation with cookbook author and food writer Julie Van Rosendahl about comfort food. We're going to open up the lines after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at 2 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. More spaces and more early childhood educators are needed to bolster Manitoba's childcare system. That's what advocates are calling for today on this day, National Child Day. They applauded the province for implementing $10 a day childcare for licensed childcare spaces, but they say Manitoba still has 21,000 spaces to create by 2026 if it's to meet a target set last year. Kathy Gardner is president of the Manitoba Child Care Association. She says workers are the foundation of the system, and right now there's just not enough of them to support more spaces.
We continue to have an at-risk workforce where the resignation of just one ECE can send a centre into a tailspin scrambling to find a replacement. It can mean that 8 families will potentially be without care until someone new can be hired.
Advocates say recruitment and retention of early childhood educators must be prioritized by government. They say quality education and decent wages are needed to attract new workers. Today is the Transgender Day of Remembrance in Manitoba. It's a day to remember those who have died as a result of transphobia and violence. It also calls attention to the continuing discrimination and violence transgender people often face. A trans pride flag has been put up in the rotunda at the legislature. Kirkfield Park NDP MLA Logan Oxenham is there. He is the only openly transgender person elected to a provincial legislature in all of Canada. Oxenham was asked what message he wants to send to trans people today.
I would say you are loved. I would say you are seen. I would say that we're here to listen, and you have a government that it will stand with you and beside you through your journey, and you're safe with us.
Oxenham says it's important to have a place where all people feel safe. And governance in Dawson City, Yukon is at a standstill. That's because the newly elected mayor and councillors there are refusing to pledge allegiance to King Charles. They are citing the Crown's history with Indigenous people. The territory is reviewing the council's request to swear a different oath. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app.
I got to ask you, Matt, what's your favorite comfort food?
Rice.
That's it? Just straight up rice?
Plain, hot, white rice.
Why?
Why anything? It's because I get chopsticks and I put it in a little bowl and I eat it. And it's comforting to me.
Okay.
Honestly, I like just plain rice.
My wife actually, we just started making it for our son. I think we call it candy rice. It's more of a marketing thing, but we put just a little bit of milk and a little bit of sugar, just a little bit in little sweetener, a little syrup in there, and he loves it.
Oh, that's a pretty common dish in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Too.
So if you want to just maybe make it a little less boring, just a thought for you. Even though that's your comfort food, I respect that.
So many things, either that or turkey cutlets.
Oh, okay.
Like a breaded turkey cutlet.
Okay.
That's because my mom, right? She used to make that.
memories in there, hey?
Yeah, in the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs full of memories.
Okay.
What's your comfort food?
You know what? I was going to save this to tell Julie, who's coming.
We'll tell her again.
I'll tell you know what. Julie can reflect if she wants to come on. But it's classic. It's homemade chicken noodle soup, but Mennonite style, where there's actually you put some aniseed in there. Actually, and that gives it actually a really nice. And now whenever I have chicken noodle soup, there's no aniseed because I've grown up with it. My mom would always make it. It just never the same. Whenever I have some kind of like very chickeny soup, it's like it just throws some aniseed in there and it just amps it up.
I don't think I've ever tasted that.
It's worth it. It's really good.
So do you start with the whole chicken carcass?
Yeah. That or like a bunch of chicken thighs you pop in there, and then you go from there.
What kind of quality does the aniseed add? Is it like a?
It's like a black licorice, but it's but not quite. But it's like and the scent and the aroma of it, so it's quite nice actually. But I don't like black licorice. That stuff is gross. But that and soup is nice. Anyways, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you. Back soon.
Riley, you're on deck for comfort food. But first, I'm sure everyone is wondering about weather and the forecast. What's going on?
Well, that area of low pressure that I was talking about, the one that brought us a lot of snow to the west into parts of the north as well, has shifted a little bit to the south. So kind of sitting on the border between Manitoba, Ontario, and Minnesota at the moment, and a bit of a frontal boundary kind of swooping up the central part of the province. Some snow traveling along that. So a little bit of light snow this afternoon. In downtown here, at least, I don't think anything in the way of accumulation other than a trace. I know when I was walking into work this morning, the roof on the bus shelter just outside of the station had a skiff of snow on the top.
Hey,
so there was a little
happening.
bit.
We got a call about a dusting of snow at Assiniboine Park this morning too, from a listener.
Yes, there was a little bit in Charleswood as well early this morning as well. A lot of that snow outside the city, so you actually didn't have to go far outside the city to find some of that accumulation and some of those poor driving conditions, even as close as Eli and St. Francis Xavier. Looking at some of that snow early this morning. That does continue as we get through the daytime today here in southern Manitoba. Still a little bit of light snow yet to come generally across southern Manitoba into our neck of the woods here in the Red River Valley. Could see some of this mixing with a little bit of rain as well through the afternoon hours. And the north still has a bit to go as we get through Thursday with that snow tapering off through Thursday. I'm thinking a bit of a brighter day tomorrow for the western side of the province in particular. Mix of sun and clouds. I've got Winnipeg mostly cloudy, a couple of sunny breaks later in the day here for Winnipeg. Otherwise, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies for the rest of the week with a few sunny breaks. Snow yet to come in northern Manitoba, into Lynn Lake in particular, looking into that 15 to 20 centimeter range in that far northwestern corner of Manitoba. The Paw and Flin Flon, Norway House, maybe a couple more centimeters. And in that, I'll say 3 to 6 range for places like Thompson into Gillam. But what we will feel here in the south, especially if you're in the west, if you're in the Brandon region, you know what I'm talking about is the winds that we're seeing this afternoon. Looking at winds keeping in that 50 gusting to 70 range, really Russell, Minnedosa, south into Brandon, Verdun, Melita, into the Morden Winkler region, even looking at some of these stronger gusts, 30 gusting 50 for Dauphin. Winds in Winnipeg pick up as we get into the evening tonight. Northwest 20 gusting 40. Could see the odd gust up to 50 through the overnight hours tonight. And then we'll start to see things dying off a bit as we get into the day on Thursday. Today, Winnipeg, I've got us getting up to +2, staying at around +2. That's where we're at the moment, actually. +1 in Emerson, -1 in Portage, and -6s back to the west into Verdun and Melita. -1 tomorrow in Winnipeg, -3 for Friday. -4 for Saturday. Some cloud and a bit of snow starts to build in across the south again. Right now, very early on for Sunday, looking at about 2 to 4 centimeters for the Red River Valley. Maybe a little bit more back to the west again, and that tapers off through Monday.
Thank you very much, Riley. But before that, you
yes,
go,
I know that you're.
Yes, I hope you're. What's your comfort food?
My mom's baked mac and cheese.
Ooh, okay. Why?
Just the way it's done.
Is there anything
the motherly touch?
Is there
to
a special ingredient in there?
I don't know if there's a special ingredient.
Love.
Yes, sure. But there's no. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much there, Riley.
You're welcome.
That's Riley Laychuk, our resident mac and cheese enthusiast and weather specialist as well. And as you probably guessed, that's the topic of our call-in conversation today is comfort food. And as the temperatures drop, the casserole dishes and slow cooker comes out. And because with that cold comes a craving for comfort food. And what comfort foods are you thinking about as we head into winter, or now that we're in winter, even though it's officially a month away, we're in winter now. And maybe you have a twist on a traditional classic. Do you add tuna and peas to your craft dinner? It doesn't have to be fancy. Or do you crave a food that's been passed down through generations? We want to hear about your favorite comfort food you're excited to cook or eat this winter. Share your recipe, share your story. Call us 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. You can also text us 204-588-7355. That's 204-588-7355. And we've got Julie Van Rosendahl with us. She's a food writer and cookbook author. Hello there, Julie.
Hello.
We've already kind of shared a few of ours, but you got to share what comfort foods are you craving this time of year?
Oh, I love this conversation. And when it gets cold, comfort foods tend to be warm. They tend to be saucy. They're like soups and stews and braises and things like that. Pasta, starchy things, rice, like you were talking about, bread. I just baked sourdough, so my house smells wonderful. And I think that's such a big part of it. It's not just the eating the food, it's the like coming home to the smell of something baking or simmering on the stove top, right? And so bread is comfort for me. Raisin toast is something that my mom made for us when we were growing up. Poached eggs on toast. Yeah.
And is there one you mentioned one earlier? But are there any recipes that you enjoy that have been passed down through the generations? What's your kind of generational recipe?
Yeah, comfort food is so subjective, and it has so much to do with what our caregivers fed us. In terms of generations, honestly, my dad is Belgian, my mom's family is British. We don't have a lot of family recipes that have been passed on from generation to generation. I loved my dad's stew growing up, but mostly it's sort of simple things, and like the cream of wheat that my mom used to make for us, that she would hide the raisins underneath. And nowadays, if I had not eaten cream of wheat as a kid and I ate a bowl, I don't think I would love it. It's not really that delicious, right? I bought a box during the pandemic because I was looking for comfort, and I was like, but that flavor nostalgia is so strong, and there are dishes that I didn't grow up with that I now know and I love and I find comforting. I love making dal. I've been making mine with roasted winter squash stirred in, and always with naan, which I make in a cast iron skillet. It's all chewy and stretchy, or congee or lugao, the rice porridges. I love to make.
And if you're mouth is watering like me, but you also want to have some memories that you want to share, you give us a call. We're opening up the phone lines right now. If you want to share your family's generational recipe, maybe if someone wants to go to the grocery store today and try something new, give us a call. Share your recipe with us. Share your family's story, or maybe your own personal story with some food that's a more recent comfort food to you, like Matt and rice. You can give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. You can also text us, 204-588-7355. I mean, you mentioned dal and stuff like that before, but what are some of the lesser known comfort foods you've come across that resonate with some different communities?
Well, comfort foods, I think, have a lot to do with texture as well, right? When you hear people talk about comfort foods, they're often saucy or cheesy or melty. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's got to be kind of hot too, a little bit, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, it has to be warm. I was thinking about that, and all those comfort foods that come to mind are warm. I don't hear people talking about salads that are comforting, although you might, especially if it's something that you grew up with. Ice cream I find comforting.
Fair enough.
Because
That's
it
true.
makes you feel good, right? And it's all, comfort is a feeling, and food invokes feelings and being cooked for. Anytime someone makes something for me, I find it comforting. Doesn't matter what it is, especially if it has a story. I love when friends make a recipe that was passed down from their relatives, or that they got from a friend, or that they have some sort of personal connection in some way. I find that comforting, like the act of being cooked for. But yeah, it just has so much to do with our cultures and our upbringings, and what our families had access to. growing up, but often it's simple and not elaborate dishes, unless it's those holiday dishes, right? We get into traditions and those dishes that come out, once a year for various holidays. And that's a whole different kind of comfort.
I'm curious if anyone has a salad as a comfort food, call us or a cold comfort food. I'd love to hear it. 204-780-0893. Are there any cookbooks that come to mind that kind of embody, a good cookbook for comfort food?
Oh my gosh, that's an excellent question. I have so many cookbooks. I should really have a lot that come to mind. Immediately what I go to are my old cookbooks, one from like my grandmother who lived in Windsor, Ontario. The Uncommon Cookbook was from like the Windsor Art Gallery, and there's a lot of recipes in there. Actually, come to think of it, now that I've gone down this little rabbit hole, there's a marinated bean salad that she used to make that I find comforting. Oh, that's so funny. And
Wait,
it's in that
a warm or cold salad?
cold.
Okay.
A marinated bean salad, and she made like a whipped frozen pineapple mousse as well that I think was in that cookbook. I live in Calgary, so the prairies are big on Best of Bridge. Best of Bridge is a cookbook brand that started in 1975, and I actually went to school with some of the kids of the Best of Bridge ladies, so a lot of those dishes we ended up growing up with. Classy chicken, that's still my dad's favorite. It's like chicken and broccoli. It was called Classy Chicken because the original recipe called for asparagus, which was not commonly available back in sort of the 80s. But then broccoli was a common substitute. So a chicken and broccoli and like a can of soup with curry powder stirred in and cheese, and so it's like baked and bubbly, and then you serve it with mashed potatoes or rice. Potatoes are the ultimate. Potatoes, that should come to mind right away. All forms of potatoes, like mashed, scalloped, fried, roasted.
Starchier the better.
Exactly.
Oh man, now that got me all hungry now. In terms of, I'm just looking ahead now to the holidays. In terms of, what are some of the most common holiday comfort foods that you're hearing of, or maybe even some twists on it?
Oh, some twists. It's funny when people tend to take twists on the traditional holiday foods. Friends and family get upset, right? Because holiday foods are traditional. They have to be the way that they are. I had a friend whose mom always made a jellied salad, like an aspic, over the holidays, and everyone made fun of it. Everyone complained about it. But so she finally stopped making it, and everyone was like, what? Where is it? It has to be here. It has to be the same way. You can't sort of stray from the traditional. So, during the holidays, I'm one of the people who loves fruitcake and trifle, and maybe that's sort of my British background. And mincemeat. I love mincemeat. I put mincemeat in everything. I stir it into my oatmeal in the morning. And partly it's the flavors, right? It's those warm cinnamon spices, which you see in all kinds of cuisines, are very, they sort of evoke a sense of comfort, right? Like that sort of emotional feeling. The smell of apple pie. Someone did a study years ago about the most comforting smells in apple pie or pumpkin pie spices. That's sort of those warm spice blends. Which you see in a lot of different spice blends and cuisines around the world, but those sort of warm spices are very comforting.
Well, Julie, we put the call out for people with cold comfort foods, and Janine actually has answered the call. Hi there, Janine.
Hi there.
Hi. Tell us about your comfort food.
My cold comfort food is my sister-in-law's potato salad. She makes the best potato salad with bacon and cheese and onions and all kinds of good stuff in it, and I absolutely love it.
I gotta say, the potato salad, one key ingredient that I need is a little bit of pickle juice in there. Is there pickle juice in there?
She puts pickle juice and pickles in.
Brilliant. That's the best way to elevate a potato salad. Do you like it because it just tastes good, or is there some memories associated with it as well, Janine?
I honestly like it because it tastes good. It's also very reminiscent of potato salad that my mom used to make. One of the nicest things I find about my sister-in-law's potato salad is she uses homemade dill pickles, and her homemade dill pickles are excellent. And so we just chow down on a big bowl of potato salad every year at Christmas.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, so it's also like a particular holiday comfort food for you, potato salad. I thought it'd be like a summer thing.
No, well, we have it all year round,
Mhm.
but we enjoy it in the summer for family barbecues, and we also enjoy it in the winter.
Love it. Well, thank you very much, Janine.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Julie, that's are you hungry?
Am I hungry?
After that?
I'll always hungry. But potatoes, right? Potatoes.
Yeah.
Potatoes in all applications are comforting.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, potato salad for me always takes me back to a church foyer, like a little, like just a little like post-church lunch. I just like it. I don't know why. I always like go right back to it as soon as I have potato salad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm even wondering, before we let you go here, is there any particular memories you have like that you want to share with us about about a particular food that comes to mind?
Mine personally?
Yeah.
It's funny. People often ask me what my most memorable meal was, and I think they expect me to just talk about some, Michelin-starred restaurant or something. But I was in Toronto years ago, and I was doing some events, and I was staying with a friend, and it was raining and sleeting, and I had a really bad day, and someone stole all my cookies for my event, and I was dragging my luggage through the snow and sleet to my friend's house at the end of the day, and I was so hungry and so cold and so tired, and she made me a roasted chicken with asparagus and rice with butter and soy sauce. Me by the fire, and I had a shower and warmed up, and it was like the most memorable meal I think I've ever had. And it was partly that she was cooking for me, that I was cold, I was hungry, I was being comforted, and but I still eat rice with some butter and some soy sauce, and maybe some chili crisp as a comfort food.
Oh, really? Now it's like become part of it.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing. Well, Julie, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's Julie Van Rosendahl, a food writer and cookbook author and a regular CBC contributor. Well, we thought we'd leave you with maybe a song about, some food that might be of comfort to you. At least it's of comfort to Winnipeg's Boy Golden. Here he is with KD and Lunch Meat. Boy Golden with the original 90s kid comfort food song, KD and Lunch Meat. 12:54 right now. We are coming up to the end of the show, but first, more than 50,000 Canada Post workers are on strike across the country right now. They've been on strike since Friday, and this is just the latest in a series of major labor disputes we've seen in the past couple of years here in Canada, and many of them have involved public sector workers. And today on CBC podcast Front Burner, Associate Professor of Sociology at McGill University, Barry Eidlin, joins host Jamie Poisson. They're talking about the factors impacting today's labor situation.
One of the reasons that these strikes have retained a high degree of public support in general are many Canadians, the vast majority of Canadians, are dealing with wages that aren't keeping up with the cost of living, are dealing with, unpredictable scheduling or not enough hours or too much forced overtime. These are dealing with technological change, issues of control at work over, like being micromanaged or being, or not having the resources to do the job that you need to do. These are all the issues that are coming up over and over again in these strikes.
Barry, how would you say that the unions have done here in addressing those concerns? Have they been effective generally?
Well, I will say that we haven't seen the sort of resounding, clear victories that maybe they're few and far between regardless. But I would say that the fight has borne fruit in the sense that workers have gotten far more than they would have absent a viable strike threat or without striking. I think you see an example here in Quebec with the public sector, which is the largest strike, and it was almost 500,000 workers on strike last year against the Quebec government in healthcare and education. The government was was proposing a 9% wage increase over 5 years, and they got it up to like 17.4%, right? So nearly double.
That's Barry Eidlin. He's the author of Labor and the Class Idea in the United States and Canada. And you could hear more of that conversation on the Front Burner podcast. Time now is 12:57 here on Radio Noon, and we are about to wrap the show. But first, Emily Brass is hosting Up to Speed this afternoon, and she's in studio with us now to tell us about what's going on.
Hey, Corey. So we're going to speak with the executive director of the Salvation Army Center of Hope about their winter weather response plans, which have now kicked off in full steam with this weather that's here. And they have a few new things this year, including a whole new area for women refugee claimants. So it's more culturally appropriate. They have 20 new rooms for them, which in turn opens up 20 more beds in the regular part of the shelter for more women to come in. And they say they've really been focusing efforts on women who are visibly doing sex work out on the streets, and during the winter that makes them so much more vulnerable. So they're trying to get them to come into the shelter, and they say that can really be a life-changing step. So going to be an interesting conversation.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you.
That is Emily Brass. She is sitting in the host seat today on Up to Speed. You can catch her from 3 to 6. Reminder to folks, Highway 1 from Austin to the Saskatchewan border still closed both ways, as well as lots of the highway south of Brandon around Souris, Glenborough, Annette, Killarney, Pilot Mound, Deloraine, all closed right now. So check out Manitoba 511 before you hit the highways today, because it might be closed. But treacherous highway conditions all across western and southwestern Manitoba this afternoon. Be safe out there, and thanks to the wonderful team who've helped put together today's show: Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, and Kevin Nipatebo. I'm Corey Funk, and coming up next on CBC Radio 1, Writers and Company. See you tomorrow at RRC Polytech.